The disciples of Jesus dedicated their lives to preaching the gospel despite threats and persecution. Their path was not easy, and most of them met a martyr's death. In this article, we will explore what is known about the fate of each of the 12 apostles, as well as the fate of the apostle Paul and Matthias, who replaced Judas Iscariot. Peter, one of Jesus' most devoted disciples, was known for his fervent faith, but also moments of weakness, such as his denial before Jesus' crucifixion, Matthew 26:69-75. After Jesus' ascension, he became a leader of the early church and preached in Judea, Samaria, and eventually in Rome. According to ancient traditions, Peter was arrested under Emperor Nero. When sentenced to crucifixion, he requested to be crucified upside down, believing himself unworthy to die in the same manner as Christ. His martyrdom occurred around AD 64-67 in Rome. Andrew, Peter's brother, was one of the first disciples called by Jesus, John 1:40. He preached in Asia Minor, Thrace, Greece, and even in present-day Russia. According to tradition, he was captured in the city of Patras, Greece, where he was crucified on an X-shaped cross, later known as St. Andrew's Cross. Before his death, he hung on the cross for 2 days, continuing to preach the gospel. James, the brother of John, was one of Jesus' closest disciples. He witnessed the Transfiguration, Matthew 17:1-2, and was with Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, Matthew 26:37. He was the first apostle to be martyred. According to Acts 12:1-2, he was beheaded by order of King Herod Agrippa, around AD 44. His death marked the beginning of severe persecution against Christians in Jerusalem. John was the author of the Gospel of John, 3 epistles, and the Book of Revelation. He was called the Apostle of Love for his teachings on brotherly love, 1 John 4:7-8. According to tradition, he was sentenced to death by being thrown into a boiling cauldron of oil, but miraculously survived. Later, he was exiled to the island of Patmos, where he received the revelation of the end times, Revelation 1:9. After Emperor Domitian's death, he returned to Ephesus, where he lived to an old age and died naturally. Philip preached in Asia Minor. According to tradition, he was either crucified upside down or hanged in Hierapolis, modern Turkey. Before his death, he converted many pagans, including the wife of a proconsul, which led to his execution. Nathanael was described as a man in whom there is no deceit, John 1:47. He preached in Armenia, Persia, and India. According to tradition, he was captured in Armenia, flayed alive, and then either crucified or beheaded. Thomas is known for doubting Jesus' resurrection, John 20:25. However, he became one of the most devoted missionaries. Tradition states that he traveled to India, where he converted many people, including a local king. Eventually, pagan priests speared him to death. Matthew, a former tax collector and author of the Gospel of Matthew, preached in Parthia and Ethiopia. One account suggests he was killed by a sword in Ethiopia. James, son of Alphaeus, thrown from the temple roof. According to tradition, he was thrown from the roof of the Jerusalem temple and then stoned to death. Thaddeus, Jude, brother of James, killed by spears. Thaddeus preached in Persia and Armenia. Tradition states that he was killed with spears alongside Simon the Zealot. Simon preached in Egypt, Persia, and Britain. Some sources claim he was crucified, while others suggest he was sawn in half. Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, Matthew 26:15. Afterward, he hanged himself, Matthew 27:5, and according to Acts 1:18, his body burst open. Matthias was chosen to replace Judas, Acts 1:26. Tradition holds that he was either crucified or beheaded in Judea. Paul, a former persecutor of Christians, became one of the greatest missionaries, Acts 9. He was beheaded in Rome under Nero's reign. The stories of the apostles testify to their faith and sacrifice. They gave their lives for Christ, fulfilling his great commission. Matthew 28:19 through 20. Their legacy continues to inspire millions of believers today.